everybody. I'm Parker Goss. I'm in Dr. R's KSR 5000 class. I'm a first-year graduate student, and I decided to focus my research on whether or not the reasons that folks come out and watch esport events are the same reasons they go to a traditional sporting event. This is a big deal. There's a lot of misconceptions and preconceived notions surrounding esports. I don't have to tell all of you guys what's likely going to come to everyone's mind when I say gamer, let alone professional gamer. But the fact of the matter is, as early as 2020, this could be becoming a billion-dollar business, and everyone wants their cut. But we don't know how to throw these events in the same way that we know how to throw traditional sporting events on the national and local levels. So what we did was, I put together a Google form. It's the easiest way to send it out. And I sent it out to every single student at this university. There are 2 questions that I asked right off the bat. They're very simple. First, have you attended an esports event in the past 5 years? Second, have you attended a traditional sporting event in the past 5 years? If the answer to either or both of those was yes, they then took a look at 15 statements that are directly derived from the sport interest inventory. The sport interest inventory has been around since the 1990s. It was built in the context of the Women's World Cup domination of the 1990s, and it served as the standard bearer of figuring out how we get butts in seats at events like these. After we conducted the t-test, we crunched all of the numbers with a lot of help from Dr. Mavi, not a lot from myself. We figured out that 14 of the 15 tested motives held true for both esports and traditional sports. The 2 most important driving factors of both sport types were this: competition. They like to see close games. They don't like to see blowouts. And second, skill of the athletes, or athletes. Everyone likes to watch, whether their game is League of Legends or basketball. They like to see the people who are the best in the world do what they do. So when they go to the Y on Sunday, or they come home and they play a game of League of Legends, they apply what they saw, and they themselves feel like a pro. But what does it mean that 14 of these 15 motives are shared between traditional sports and esports? Well, it means when we're trying to throw these big esports events and make good on the economic investment that people have made in esports, we can look no further than the thousands of years of research we've put in to getting people into traditional sporting events for guidance. After all, it's probably not the same thing that's got people going for League of Legends World Championships as it is if we had a League of Legends tournament here at the SRC next week. That's an area for further research. That's to say, capitalizing on what particular motives we can use and pivot on when we consider the context of the events that we're trying to throw. And more importantly, when doing this research, aside from learning that we can all cash in and get our chunk of the billion-dollar industry that is esports, I learned that a lot of people have found a home, a team, and a place to belong with esports at a national level, and you can even see it here at the SRC if you go up to the esports arena. And for that reason, seeing esports out to their fullest potential is of the utmost importance. Thank you.
You're not done.
Questions? Questions?
I have a question. Never having seen an esport event, would you say it's more like watching a movie or watching a tennis game? What's your analogy?
Not a lot like watching a tennis game. I would say it's, if you don't know necessarily what you're looking for, it's going to be hard. And it's something that esports has had to tackle. You know, they've put League of Legends on TV. They put it on ESPN with all the other sports fans. And they don't know what they're watching. So that's another area for further research, perhaps, is how we can ease that barrier for entry so that people will see, Dota when it was on ESPN, and they kind of know what we're looking at. Does that answer your question?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Do you only look at live attendance, or do you do like people who watch TV sports versus like over the internet esports?
Yeah, so for this we were just looking at live attendance, just to kind of get an idea of how we can get that financial return just from getting people in the door at these events. When we were doing the literature review, there's a lot of studies on Twitch TV where gamers basically built this up into now one of the top 5 websites in the world in terms of peak internet traffic. So people have done a lot of study on that, and I think that's kind of what makes this study unique, is people come out to watch esports in person, and to, to the lay person, to the person who's not esports familiar, the idea of watching esports in person when playing video games, it's just not as compelling. So I wanted to take a look at that.
How many students responded to your survey, and how many have been to an esport event?
Right. Yeah. So real quick, I did send it out to the EIU Esports Club specifically, in the hopes that I could work with Gabe and try to get specifically people who might have been to these types of events, sort of asking the Esports Club, since obviously if anyone's been to them, they probably have. But in the end, we had 12 people who responded that they had been to esports events, which out of the 36 that responded total, I was actually pretty surprised that over a third. And we only had one person out of the 36, so 35 said that they had been to a traditional sport event in the past 5 years.
I think you sent it to
Student body.
student body.
Did you send it to everybody?
Oh yeah, it went to everyone.
So
We got
a few
35.
thousand?
Miss-
And you go, hell, 36
Well-
people bothered to respond?
Oh yeah. Thanks for that, by the way.
Should have texted it, maybe.
Hey, live and learn.
So, what do you think would happen, like, if next week in Lance Arena they had big screens and we had some powerhouse players in there and charged admission? I mean, we're going to pack the house or what?
Next week, probably not. It's going to take a little time to build something like that up. But what I will say is people who go out to these kinds of events absolutely are okay with paying money to get in the door. It's expected at events of the kind of caliber that I think you're alluding to. Like if we went to the League of Legends World Championships this October, it wouldn't be cheap. One, because it would probably be in Korea or China, but it won't be cheap to get into. Anybody?
Sit down.